Welcome in, everybody. We are here at one of the coolest spots in Hoppy Valley and one of the best breweries in all of Pennsylvania, Antifragile Brewing Company, right here on Calder Way in the heart of downtown State College. I'm Chris Buchanani. This is my obligatory co-host, Kevin Horn. How you doing, Horn?
Chris, I feel like I'm like a high school recruit about to pick my team here, except for every team is Antifragile, which is
you can't go wrong.
Correct. Yeah, one of the best beer in State College. Great spot. I'm here every day. I'm in State College, which is probably a bad thing, but it's a great spot nonetheless.
Indeed. And we are here to do something pretty cool, which is unveil, bit by bit, the obligatory Penn State quarter century team, celebrating the very best Nittany Lions of the last 25 years of Penn State football. So I want to take a minute to acknowledge our sponsor, the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest, which is coming back to Penn State on July 19th. The address to buy your tickets is on your screen. It's hoppyvalleybrewersfest.com. I hope we will see you there. A brief description about what we're doing and how we did it. As I said, we wanted to look at the very best players from the last 25 years of Penn State football. So we sent out ballots to voters representing a range of perspectives. Our cast, some of our sponsors who are all big Penn State football fans themselves, media, alumni association volunteers, even a few super fans. And we only gave them a few directives. Any player who played for Penn State after 2000 was eligible if they switched positions while they were here. So if you started at guard and you moved to center, you were eligible at the position you played last. And then the only other directive we gave was only look at a player's collegiate career, not what they did in the NFL. Other than that, we left it up to the panel to decide who were the best players of the last 25 years. And so without further ado, I think we're going to get into it. And Kev, it's linebacker you, so we may as well start at the program's signature position. A lot of tough decisions on this one.
Yeah, the deep field for sure. Probably the best position group in Penn State history, and definitely the last 25 years.
Yeah, how about it? Well, let's get right into the first player on the second team. And it's hard to believe a guy this good is a second teamer, but that's the way it goes at linebacker U. Let's go. Over just 2 seasons in Hoppy Valley, Micah Parsons took the Stick City legacy to another level. The COVID-shortened season interrupted his college career, but his regrettably brief time on the field made more than enough of an impression to earn him a spot on this team. Almost 200 tackles, half of them solo, 19 tackles for loss, and 6.5 sacks. From a roller coaster recruitment to an All-American sophomore campaign in 2019 that culminated with the Cotton Bowl MVP, Micah Parsons never surrendered the spotlight. In terms of pure athleticism, probably the best player at linebacker, probably the best player Penn State has had, period, since the guy who got the whole 11 thing started in LeVar Arrington.
Yeah, has a Penn State player been talked about more than Micah Parsons for someone who's only played in 26 games, right? That's the one part at the end of his legacy, like what could have been? What could have been if the Big Ten didn't royally screw up the COVID situation? I mean, he's a sort of recruit that Penn State really doesn't get that much anymore and wouldn't have maybe a couple years later, but for him taking a picture with Kirk Herbstreit when he visited Ohio State, thus committing a recruiting violation and opening the door to James Franklin landing him here. Glad to have him, a controversial figure for sure, but those 2 seasons were a lot of fun. I wish it could have been a third.
Talking about the comparison with LeVar, I'm sure there are some people who will look at this and say, how is that guy not on the first team with just how great of a player he was? So for me, I mean, you and I voted in this, and I did have him outside my top 3 linebackers. Now, part of that is a reflection of the talent we're going to talk about when we roll out the first team. And part of it, again, to me, was just what you talked about. He only had the 2 years and really the 1 year as an impact starter, albeit as a first-team All-American.
And I'll be honest, Chris, I don't remember who I voted for. So we'll be honest with the viewers on that.
I appreciate that.
But yes, if he had gotten a third year, who knows? Who knows? He could have been catapulted himself to number 1. But yeah, the field's just too deep in this list to go there.
When you think about the way he was putting it all together in that Cotton Bowl and what could have been, it's one of the great what-ifs in Penn State history.
It is. Well, that's Kevin, what's his face, that quit the Bears after a year. I can't get my crappy Big Ten commissioners mixed up. But yeah, lost opportunity. I love that he's still involved. He's a guy that really does still care about Penn State, tweets about every game, watches every game. Those are guys that are easy to root for despite all the dumb stuff he says on a weekly basis in the NFL.
And with Saquon Barkley, probably the best ambassador for Penn State football that we've got at the pro level right now. And speaking of guys who killed it in the NFL, Let's move on to our next second team linebacker.
Next up, we have yet another number 11, Navarro Bowman, first of many great Ron Vanderlinden coached linebackers on our team, waited patiently to make his mark among a crowded group of all-time greats at his position. 215 tackles, 37 for loss, 8 sacks, 3 picks, and a score, playing key roles with the Big Ten champs of 2008 and 11-win Capital One Bowl champions the following year. Navarro Bowman built on the legacy of the golden era of linebacker U.
When you talk about the guys Navarro Bowman played with, who, spoiler alert, you're going to be seeing in a future episode, it's easy, I think, Kevin, for him to get lost in the wash.
Yeah, it really is. But he was really the next linebacker after LeVar to wear the sticks and play great. I mean, he was the second guy in the Stick City pantheon of legends. And but he was so quiet about it, right? He played when I was really, really starting to love the team and getting involved and decided to come to school here, and he just did it in a quiet, not flashy way. That like oh yeah, Navarro Bowman's a star, but he's not the star. He's not the guy that's the first guy you're going to in the locker room interview, like a Micah Parsons or some of the other linebackers we're going to get into. But just sort of a quiet durability, a quiet consistency, and a great Penn State career, no doubt.
Yeah, you look at those stats, and you just see over time that guy was racking up big numbers across the board. So the two plays I will always think about when I think about Navarro Bowman as a Nittany Lion is number 1, 2008 at Ohio State. Mark Rubin forces that fumble on Terrell Pryor. Mm-hmm. Penn State doesn't recover it if Navarro Bowman doesn't have the presence of mind to knock that ball out of the pile and keep it live. So integral to one of the biggest plays in program history, probably. And then I also think about his last game in uniform, that sloppy Capital One Bowl. Mm-hmm. Again, smart. As Penn State's trying to run the clock out and hold a lead on LSU, he's slow to get up off the pile, but in just the right way that it doesn't get flagged, and bleeds probably about 10 crucial seconds off the clock at the end of that game.
I forgot about that one. Everyone wanted that game to end as quickly as possible, so everyone was appreciative of Navarro in that torrential downpour. But yeah, great player, great career afterwards, great career in the NFL, of course. And love when his name comes up because he doesn't get the credit he deserves for what he did at Penn State.
And again, it's the second team. Hard to believe this guy is the last linebacker to talk about, but he's a legend. Let's get to him right now.
Rounding out our second team linebackers is Michael Moody, the legacy playmaker who stepped up at State's darkest hour. He promised to go out every Saturday and raise hell, and then he backed it up. Despite battling injuries throughout his career, Moody will still be remembered as one of the greatest Nittany Lions of all time, both for his indispensable leadership in the locker room during the 2012 season and his dominance on the field.
The best. One of your favorites, I know, and of many Penn Staters, for good reason.
Not Mike the Mailman. Who are we talking about?
The other Mike.
Oh, Moody, of course.
Mike the Mailman is nobody's favorite.
No, and he voted in this poll too, so that shows you how legitimate this whole thing is. But no, Matt, how can you not? I mean, every time I think about Michael Moody, I just smile, right? How can you not love that guy? I told him to his face multiple times, so I think he forgets. But on the Mount Rushmore of Penn State, not football, like Penn State, Evan Pugh, George Atherton, Joe Paterno, Michael Moody. Because
I love that. I'm going to cheers to that right now.
Without what he did in 2012, along with everyone else in Zordich and the rest, and that story, that when they went out on that practice field and declared that every Saturday they're going to raise hell and play for university, 5 of the most important minutes in Penn State history, along with like Evan Pugh taking the carriage in from Lewistown and everything else. So yeah, every time I'm so glad he's back with the program. He's employed at Penn State. Every time I see him around town, I just get a big smile on my face. He should never have to pay for a beer in this town for as long as that guy lives. And just the best. I don't even care what he did in the field. Like the way it ended with the injury and the carting off. And there's just so many sad, but great images about all that. And the 42.
The team wearing the 42 on the helmets. Gerald Hodges wearing the 42 jersey in that season-ending Wisconsin game. Right. Yeah, if he never did anything on the field, just for that, he'd be a legend. But then you think about the way he played in that 2012 season. I think that's part of the reason the guys followed him, because they knew he could back up everything he was saying on camera and everything he was saying in the locker room, convincing those guys to stay when he got out on the field. And for me, that's all encapsulated in that Illinois game that for the blog, he did a really good retrospective on, which you should check out.
Yeah, and of course he hates Illinois. He still hates Illinois to this day. for what they tried to do to Penn State, and just poetic justice in that sense that he was able to do that against Illinois that year. And yeah, I get goosebumps thinking about Michael Mouty, and it's hard to believe that was 13 years ago, but one of a kind.
Well, now you just made me a little sad. Well, we don't want to end on a sad note, but that's our second team, linebackers, LBU. This trio would be the envy of most college football programs over the last 25 years, and they're only our second teamers. So we're going to get into the defensive front four right after this. Now, welcome back in. We're here unveiling the second team defense on the obligatory Penn State quarter century team. Went through the linebackers. Now we're going to talk about the defensive line. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit more about Antifragile Brewing Company, who has been generous enough to help sponsor this program and bring it to y'all and host us here. One of the coolest spots in downtown State College.
It's the best. I mean, I found out about them when they opened up, now 3 years ago, and they sort of pitched themselves like a kombucha seller. And I'm not a big kombucha fan, but I'm like, I'll check it out. I walk in like, yeah, the kombucha's here, the beer's here. All right, I'll have an IPA. And it's phenomenal, right? I mean, Chris, we both live here. We're advocates for Center County spirits and Center County beer. There's good breweries in this town. But, to me, craft beer has become sort of a hobby, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
I enjoy going out on a Saturday and sitting on a patio and drinking beer with friends. That is important. But if you want the best actually made, crafted, tasting, like just exceptional beer, the only place in Center County that makes it that way is Antifragile. It can go up against almost anybody, anybody in the state. I mean, it is, and the ratings show it. From all the legitimate beer websites, these guys and Paulo and Jawn and the gang pump out.
And the craziest thing, at this point, the beer may not even be the best selling point. It might be the cheesesteaks.
The bottom line certainly says so. Yeah, the cheesesteaks outside of the best. But they're so rich, I can only do one or so a week. But these things, just brilliant. And always fresh, always rotating. We love it here. This is where, if you want to find Chris Buchanani and Kevin Horn, it's either if it's the morning, go to the cheese shop, but anytime afternoon, safe bet to stop down here.
Track is down here.
And Mike the Man usually doesn't come in here, so that's another bonus. So you can
that's the best selling point of all.
Yeah, avoid that crook.
So talking about the best, now we're going to get into our second team defensive line. And just like the linebackers, this is going to be a group that could probably be, a legendary Mount Rushmore front four in a lot of programs. Only second teamers for us. Through a lot of the time period we're talking about, you had Larry Johnson Sr., who, has gone over to the other side a while ago, but coached a lot of NFL caliber talent at Penn State. And then we've had a really good run, Coach Chaos and Deion Barnes now coming back and doing a great job for Coach Franklin. So we're going to get into our second team defensive ends. Let's go right now.
Carl Nassib's story reads like the script for a sports movie. Bill O'Brien once told the unheralded former run-on that he'd struggle to see the field at Penn State, let alone play at the next level. Undaunted, Nassib continued to work and improve, ultimately cracking the starting lineup and delivering one of the most dominant seasons in Penn State history his senior year. With 15.5 sacks in 2015, he set the program record for most sacks in a single season, and the following April, Carl Nassib saw his NFL dreams come true. Any conversation on the top pass rushers in Penn State history needs to include Michael Haynes, who terrorized opponent backfields for the Nittany Lions in the early 2000s. An imposing presence, Haynes was strong enough to hold up against the run versus physical Big Ten offenses, but fast and tenacious in chasing down quarterbacks. The 2002 Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, his 25.5 sacks put him in a tie for third all-time at Penn State.
Kind of one season wonder for Carl Nassib, but what a season it was.
It was. That was my first year of law school here. It came out of nowhere, right? I mean, no one had Carl Nassib as a unanimous first-team All-American before that season started. He just came out of nowhere. It was a joy to watch. It really was.
I mean, Bill didn't think he could play at all at Penn State, let alone in the NFL.
Yeah, and while he was wrong about that, I mean, he certainly was a better player than he is Penn State trustee, where he's one of the least engaged and dumbest on the entire board for an alumni trustee. But we won't go there. Well, actually, we just did go there. But anyway, we got to keep it obligatory real, right, Chris?
No question. Got to stay on brand. But you think about the time period where he starred for Penn State. I mean, really, just one of the superlative seasons we've ever had here in Happy Valley. Maybe the last chance for a guy like that to work his way into the starting lineup because you're coming out of the sanctions era. So that gives a chance for a run-on like that to really work his butt off. I don't know. Those opportunities are going to be few and far between going forward.
They are, just like it is for controversial alumni to run for the Board of Trustees because Carl Nassib voted that they can't be on the ballot. Anyway.
So let's talk about Michael Haynes.
Oh, there we go.
I know he's dipping
He wasn't
down
on the board.
Yeah, he was definitely not on the Board of Trustees. He was definitely one of the most disruptive and consistent pass rushers we've had at Penn State. I know it's kind of going back into your youth, the
Very,
2002,
far in the youth.
2001 season, but I can speak to having watched Michael Haynes play. And again, it's a testament to how many good pass rushers Penn State has had in its history and how many good pass rushers we've had just in this time period, the last 25 years, that he gets lost a little bit. Because when you go back and you look at his stats, his body of work, what he meant to Penn State, and the fact that he was good enough to be a first-round NFL draft pick, truly one of the guys who needs to be included in any discussion of the great pass rushers at Penn State.
Yeah, he got overlooked because he was playing during some of those bad years, like the dark era, et
Sure,
cetera, et cetera. The one thing I like about Michael Haynes, which I only know because I looked it up before the show so I could have something to say about Michael Haynes.
Show prep.
He got a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture from Penn State University, right? Keeping the Farmers High School spirit alive and well. Not many football players get degrees in agriculture, which I love. He didn't go the parks, rec, tourism way or the broadcast journalism way. So, I'm gonna learn how to plant stuff. I'm gonna bring it back to 1855. So, Michael Haynes, good going, buddy.
No offense to any of the fellow comm majors out there, certainly. But yeah, a real major plus a terror in opposing backfields, that's a grand experiment embodied.
Absolutely.
And for as good as Penn State was off the edge, maybe even better on the interior line, let's get to our second team defensive tackles right now.
Anthony Zettel should be recognized as one of the most versatile athletes to play defensive line for Penn State. Able to rush off the edge, but tough enough to play inside despite his frame. He specialized in causing chaos from wherever he lined up on the field. An Iron Lion who stayed loyal to Old State in 2012, his career stat line tells the tale. 120 tackles, 20 sacks, 4 interceptions. Anthony Zettel could do it all and did. This dynamic playmaker with a nose for the ball is tied for 10th all-time at Penn State in career sacks and tackles for loss. An absolute monster on the interior, Devin Still stands out among a lineage of dominant, pro-quality defensive linemen coached up by Larry Johnson Sr. Although he was haunted by injuries early in his career, Still rebounded in style. The memory of his senior year in 2011, in which he was named the Big Ten's Defensive Lineman and Defensive Player of the Year, earned him a spot on our team as one of State's best in the last 25 years.
Now we are getting right into your sweet spot because I know both these guys played while you were a student. It is hard to forget what an imposing presence Devin Still was in the middle of that defensive front his senior year.
So good. Another All-American, of course, on this list. And that sort of came out of nowhere a little bit. I mean, everyone knew he had potential and he was going to be great, but
I just got hurt a couple of times. It took him time to rebound from the injuries.
yeah, unfortunately, it was that 2011 year, which was just so weird in so many different ways, of course. But
Indeed.
he still played in the Ticket City Bowl, which I remember fondly. He is also my former colleague on the Penn State Alumni Council. So we used to be Paul Clifford's boss back in the day. I really don't think about, I know this is not about the NFL or anything other than when he played at Penn State, but I can't think about Devin Still without thinking about how he captivated the sports world with his daughter, Leah, who was diagnosed with cancer at a very young age. Remember, he was the biggest seller of NFL jerseys on the Bengals because the money raised helped with childhood cancer research. And so I still have my Devin Still Bengals jersey from a decade ago. I think they raised several $1 million. So that's what I think about with Devin Still. I think she's 9 years cancer-free at this point. So
Yeah.
Great
awesome.
story, great Penn Stater. Fond memories of him.
Yeah, another grand experiment guy and just an absolute monster, like a force of nature on that D-line.
Saw him golfing on the white course one time. Just the biggest guy I've ever seen.
I'll tell you a funny story. I was interviewing him, and it was in one of the suites up at Medlar Field, the Spike Suites boxes. So it's me, Devin Still, Goon, and Johnny Baker, our beloved producer, who does a great job behind the camera for us for many years. And so it's me and Johnny and these two huge monsters. And I said to Johnny, I said, if a UFO landed on the field right now and came up in here, they would not think that we were all the same species. They would think that Still and Goon were getting ready to eat the two of us. I mean, he is just a different kind of physical specimen.
Absolutely. I think Still's got Goon by a few pounds, but which is hard to do.
A few pounds of muscle, for sure. Talk about Anthony Zettel, a completely different style of defensive tackle. Kind of a throwback to our castmate, Brandon Noble, the undersized, not the big space eater at all, but a guy who was tough enough to play inside, but athletic enough to really give opposing defenses problems. I always think about the video of him damn near killing Saquon Barkley with that spinning kick to the water bottle. But when you look at his stats and the plays he made, versatility, I think is the word that comes to me when I think of Anthony Zettel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was here again during those dark times, and he was rewarded with a 6-year NFL career afterwards. And I think he's coaching now. He seems like the kind of guy that'll be added to like James Franklin, like random collection of recent Penn State alums to find a place on staff. I don't know, just prognosticating. So we'll play this clip when I'm right. But
yeah, mark it down. You heard it here first.
Yeah, easy. I think he might have graduated my year, but fun to watch. And all those guys, those rosters are just like they all sort of run together during those years when like it's rare. It's hard to remember a time when we didn't walk into a game thinking we don't have any expectation to win this, and nor do we really care, right? Because we're just trying to field a team and get past this.
Yeah.
And so guys like Anthony Zettel made that a lot more bearable for those few years when we're trying to get back on the right track.
Yeah, no question. And if you think these defensive tackles are good, wait till you see the guys on the first team. But that's for another show. We got the secondary coming up right after this.
Mark your calendars for July 19th when the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest returns to Penn State. Meet the brewers and enjoy exclusive pours from over 75 breweries from across Pennsylvania and beyond. Revisit your favorite places, reconnect with friends, and make new memories at the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest. Learn more and get your tickets today at hoppyvalleybrewersfest.com.
Welcome back to Antifragile Brewery. We are rolling out the second team defense on the obligatory Penn State quarter century team, the best Penn State football players of the last 25 years. And again, we want to thank our sponsors, the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest, now in its second year, coming back to Penn State on July 19th. I hope we're going to see y'all there. Kev, we went last year and had a really good time.
Yeah, for what I remember of it. Just kidding. No, it's great. I mean, every town.
That's an endorsement.
It is. Almost every town has a beer fest, but very few towns have great beer fest. And it's great because Jawn from Antifragile, you make great beer. That means you meet other brewers that make great beer, and you invite them to your festival. So it's not just like a lot of festivals are just like the beer distributor will invite 50 reps from people they rep, and they won't even send the brewer. They'll send some representative who's trying to sell you on it. And it's just not great. I mean, I don't need to have just beer you can buy at the store, right, at a fest. But they require that the brewer themselves, or at least someone high up at the brewery, someone who works for the brewery, come to the festival and serve their own beer. So that eliminates a lot of the bad stuff. And it's invite only. It's an invitational. Like you have to apply and they have to invite you to come. So it's really high quality brewers that bring high quality beer. They're bringing the fire, as they say in the industry, and looking forward to it again this year. I mean, it's unfortunate it's not in the stadium. That's the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest is another like semi-casualty of the stadium renovation, but we're going to have fun in the parking lot anyway and look forward to the time when we can return to the field. And beer tastes the same whether you're on grass or on pavement anyway. So.
Indeed. Well, here's the beauty of it from my perspective, and I'm sure yours. While they're working on Beaver Stadium, 75 plus breweries from Pennsylvania and beyond, you get to come up on campus and have a few great beers, not just in the shadow of Beaver Stadium, but with a full view of beautiful Mount Nittany as well. There's just no better way to do it. I am sorry to report, I do think Mike the Mailman's going to be there, but you should come anyway. HoppyValleyBrewersFest.com. Get your tickets today.
That guy will be trash, just punching. You don't want to see Mike the Mailman like that.
No jury in the world would convict you.
Yeah.
So we're now talking about the secondary, Kev, and it's interesting. Penn State, throughout much of the Joe Paterno era, would have like a star, but wasn't really a factory for NFL defensive backs. Mm-hmm. And then you look at the James Franklin era, And what Terry Smith and Anthony Poindexter and James have been able to do in terms of sending DBs to the NFL, there are a lot of different names to consider in this. But at the same time, you look at the last 25 years, some of the best standout performers still go back to Joe's time.
Right. Well, look, that's why the first team's all James people, and then all but one of these cats in the second team is from the old era. So, yeah, no, I mean it's definitely the weakest position sort of group in the history of Penn State, but still some very great names, very good memories. Reliving some of these names and remembering their contributions.
Yeah, not as deep as some of the other position groups, but great quality at the top. So here are your second team cornerbacks.
Like the next corner on our team, Brian Scott came to Penn State as Pennsylvania's Gatorade High School Player of the Year, and his rare combination of talents got him on the field quickly. In 3 years as a starting corner, Scott brought a unique and imposing presence to State's defensive backfield. With an unusual frame for the position, he was big and powerful enough to hit like a linebacker, tallying over 200 career tackles, yet he possessed the speed and reflexes that allowed him to hang with the Big Ten's best in pass coverage, including 5 career interceptions at Penn State. Justin King ranks among the most important recruits in the history of Penn State football. When he committed to Joe Paterno as the top prospect in Pennsylvania, the slumping Nittany Lions had won a pitiful 7 games in 2 years combined. Playing on both sides of the ball as a true freshman, King helped lead the program's surprising resurgence as the team captured the 2005 Big Ten title. He then spent 2 more productive seasons as one of State's top starting cornerbacks of the last 25 years.
Justin King was one of the commits who probably helped save the program.
He and Derek Williams rejuvenated the vibes, at the very least, around the program during the last of the Paterno years. And for that, we are grateful. I particularly like Justin King still involved. Like, I love his podcasts. Well, not that we should be pitching other podcasts, but State of State. He's great.
Rising tide. Go check it out.
Unlike Brandon Noble, who I love and we all love, Justin King didn't have that long of a career in the NFL. So he still finds the purity in the game. Like, no, we lose. Noble pretends to care. He doesn't care. Justin King rides or dies with every game, right? He goes in the podcast. He says, we this, we that. You watch him after an Ohio State loss, and that guy feels it still.
Yeah.
And I really, really appreciate guys like that. I love having Justin King around the program and talking about it. And yeah, man, he and D. Will, when they committed in 2005, like, that put Joe into the on a positive note in his last years.
Yeah, and I think that got him a lot of votes for this team. Just all the affinity around what it meant to Penn State when he committed, and then what he did as a true freshman in 2005. Technique-wise, we have probably had better DBs come through the program in the last 25 years. But like I said with Micah, very few players just had the natural athleticism of Justin King. And Brian Scott is a name who I kind of think maybe just gets lost to the passage of time. Really a unique player. He had, Kev, one of the most interesting journeys in his professional career. And again, we're not judging these guys on what they did in the NFL, but it speaks to who he was as a corner at Penn State. Just the way he was built, athletic enough to defend receivers on the outside in college. He was drafted as a safety in the NFL and played as a safety for several years. Ultimately, probably did his best work as a 3-4 outside linebacker in Buffalo. He was just that kind of guy. Like, he could hit a ton, but athletic enough to make picks and cover great receivers, like cover the best of the best.
And
in
durable.
the Big Ten.
Durable, right? So, I mean, I was looking back.
Sure.
I started going to all the games in 2005. So I was looking, but I went to a couple games a year from like 99 to through 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have I ever seen this guy play? And I was looking up, well, he played in every game. Very few guys can say that every single game they were on the roster, they played in. 48 straight. Every game he was on the roster, Brian Scott. So I did see him play. I don't remember him because I was 10. But I definitely saw him play because he played in every game. So
yeah, he was one of the guys I was rooting for to somehow find his way onto this list. And nevertheless, just narrowing it down for folks when we released the first team, some names that just didn't make it that were very close. I mean, as I talked about, a lot of great DBs in the Franklin era. No Grant Haley, No John Reed, no Amani Oruwariye. A lot of really good players. Penn State is in a good spot with bringing talent in for the defensive backfield.
Yeah, getting better. Definitely less frustrating than it used to be.
Indeed.
And our bad ones just transfer. You saw Cam Miller go to Rutgers. So anyway.
All right, let's talk about the safeties next.
Still obligatory.
Jair Brown, part of the fruitful talent pipeline from Lackawanna College to Penn State, ranks among the best on a growing list of NFL-caliber defensive backs patrolling the secondary during the James Franklin era. His versatility, he racked up 153 tackles to go with 4.5 sacks, and his leadership helped the Nittany Lions bounce back from a down year to win the Rose Bowl, where he was named Defensive MVP. With 6 of his 10 career picks coming in 2021, Jair is tied in the Penn State record books for 10th all-time in single-season interceptions with the other safety on our list. Completing our second-team safety combo is Anthony Scarato, who barely edged out competition from several other Penn State greats at his position in what proved one of the most hotly contested spots on this roster. In that rare company of Penn Staters in possession of 2 Big Ten championship rings, Scarato first contributed to the 2005 Nittany Lions as a young reserve, before emerging as a starter and eventual team captain for the 2008 Big Ten title team. His consistency, longevity, and knack for making the impact play with an eye-popping 12 career interceptions helped him lock down this recognition.
I will say this about Jair Brown. Probably one of my favorite Nittany Lions of the last decade. I look for guys, Kev, who not only do it on the field, but who demonstrate leadership ability. You can just sense that they're important to their team. I give him a lot of credit for that 2022 team turning things around from the bad seasons that preceded it.
Yeah, Tig was such an easy guy to root for, right? And talk about leadership. That those 2020 and 2021 teams that were terrible didn't have a whole lot of leadership. In fact, they had negative leadership. I think that was one of the big problems. When you blame it on COVID, you can do that. But the failure of leadership in the locker room exacerbated the COVID effects. But Tig was sort of exempt from that. You could just tell, right, that he was still all in, still involved. And he was rewarded by enduring those 2 horrible seasons with the Rose Bowl win. And he played in the game. And my enduring image of Tig Brown is going to be him just smile as big as the moon with a rose in his mouth after his last game. And he earned that. He deserved that.
That's one of the first pictures that pops up if you Google his name to this day.
And it will be forever. So kudos to him.
Okay, so Anthony Scarato comes in and gets what I think, honestly, looking at the entire roster, offense and defense, was maybe the most contested spot. Because there are 3 guys, including the 2 who made the first team and Tig Brown, who I think were obvious. And then there were a lot of other names in contention for this spot. And I want to give them their flowers. I want to talk about Drew Astorino and Calvin Lowry and Adrian Amos. Both of these guys were within points of this 4th spot. So really, I think you could have put any one of the 4 of them to include Scarato in here as the last spot on the second team and defended it very easily.
For sure. And again, I have no idea who I voted for, so I'm going to defend whatever. But Scarato got the bump because, you don't mess with Anthony Scarato, as we all know.
No doubt.
Just look up the Center County court records. You don't mess with that guy or his girlfriend. Chris, isn't that correct?
No question.
You get your ass kicked, which is the way he played, right? When it comes out that Anthony Scarato just beat someone's ass because he talked to his girlfriend the wrong way, that did not surprise anyone, because it's not like he was like a vocal leader and going crazy in the sidelines, but that guy just went out there and made tackles and hit guys. And he did it for a long time at Penn State, relatively speaking.
He made a lot of plays, 12 picks.
Yeah.
I was actually shocked when I saw that. 12 career interceptions.
He was always involved in the play.
Yeah.
Right? That was like, safety play was a little bit different back then. It was just like, well, when you see the ball go, just like run to it. Like it wasn't, it's a little bit different. I don't know the X's and O's, but it just felt like safeties used to be in the play a lot more at Penn State.
Yeah.
And Scarato was really the ideal of that. Always on the ball and always hitting guys hard.
Anthony Scarato, the play I
on and
think
off
of.
the field.
The play I think of is him calling ball game, homecoming 2006 versus Illinois, actually returned an onside kick attempt for a touchdown and put that game out of reach for the Illini. So that's it. That's our second team defense.
Not bad.
Yeah, we did it with minimal screw-ups and nominal amounts of offensive content. So well done.
Well, just wait till the first team, Chris, because we've all had multiple beers and we haven't done the first team show yet for those watching at home.
We will be back next week to unveil the second team offense. And then Kevin and I will be back in a couple of weeks to talk first team defense on the obligatory Penn State quarter century team, the best Nittany Lions of the last 25 years.
As determined by a bunch of idiots like me and Mike the Mailman.
Correct. Thanks so much to Antifragile Brewing Company and the Hoppy Valley Brewers Festival. We'll talk to you next week. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. We are